Hey, good afternoon. My name is Greg Ramey. I'm principal of John Ball Zoo School, and I truly love my job. We're here to celebrate a couple things today, beginning with a concert, first by our orchestra and then by our band, followed by a very special tribute to recognize a legacy and the founder of our Zoo School program, Mr. Dennis Kretschman. I'd like to begin by welcoming all the family members of Mr. Kretchman here as our special guests. Thank you for coming. We loved him so much. Folks, at this time, I'd like to introduce to you the leader of our orchestra, Mr. Giroudi.
Thank you very much. That's our orchestra, like Mr. Ramey mentioned. We're going to be demonstrating a little bit of everything that we've done this year throughout the past 6-7 months that we have been working together. The previous number that you heard was called Ferjaka, and we played it in a round style, meaning that we had two simultaneous lines going at the same time. Our next number for you is Bylum Cabbage Down, and this one will feature a little bit of fiddling, and you'll get to hear the students do that. So I hope you enjoy it. Our next number is going to be called Can Can, and we actually had a little bit of fun with this when we were going through this in a class because the kids had a little race or a little competition, and they were supposed to go as fast as they could without making a mistake, and I think we ended with the last 3 students that were the ones that remained playing. Who are you if you ended up being the last finalist? Yeah. All right, so we had a bunch of them, but we had a lot of fun with this, so I hope you enjoy it. Can Can. Thank you very much. Our next number is Baba Black Sheep. It's another rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. However, it's on the lower strings, so you'll get to hear them play it in a lower register. So everything that we've done before was in the key of D, those of you who speak music. But now we're going to play for you in the key of C. Hopefully you'll hear the difference. I'd like to make a small correction. Thank you. It was in the key of G, not in the key of C. Not that makes a huge difference. Our next number is called French Folk Song, and our first song that we learned in 3, meaning that everything we played before was counted in 2 or 4s. This one is in 3, so it has a bit of an odd beat to it, and the kids had a lot of fun learning that one. Our next number is called Spy Guy. You'll hear a little bit of what we call chromaticism. You'll hear the notes that are closer to each other. And the kids learned for the first time how to play naturals, because up to this point they've been playing F sharp and C sharp. Now you hear them playing some F naturals. This is called Spy Guy. Thank you. It does sound a little odd. I don't blame you for not realizing when it was over. Next one is last one in our book that we have practiced. It's called Bingo. It kind of combines pretty much all of the skills that we learned, some naturals, some eighth notes, some slurs. It's a familiar song, so you guys can sing along if you wish. And we come to our last selection for the day before we invite the band over. This one is called Cripple Creek, and it's really probably the biggest, the longest piece that the kids played. It features different instruments playing different parts, so it's what we call a comprehensive orchestral piece. And it was probably the most challenging for them too. Typically, all of those lines that we played for you were pretty short. We take about a day or two to learn them. This one took us several weeks, but I think we're finally ready for you, so I hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you very much. Final performance for the day is Cripple Creek. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Ms. Isaacson and the band, so give us just a moment to do a quick transition for you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce you to John Ball Zoo School, 6th grade band led by Ms. Ann Hepfer Isaacson.
Good afternoon. So that was Lightly Row, and that was written in 2 parts. We're learning different things as we move along. We've learned from just unison lines through 2 or 3 notes at a time, like, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Then we start to add other notes for harmony. You'll hear in this next piece, we're starting to divide beats into 8th notes. This is Skip It Loop. next thing that we work on as we move into the second semester is the difference between articulated notes and slurred notes. So we're going to play the theme from Brahms Symphony No. 1, and you should hear a difference between the nice smooth slurred notes and notes which are separated. Before we play our last two numbers, I'd like to take a second to thank all of the band and orchestra parents. I know it's a challenge to have a beginning student in your home, and it's really great as we hear the progress during the year. It goes from being, well, really, what is that, to, oh, hey, that's a tune that I really know. A lot of the band books and orchestra books use folk tunes. The next one that you'll hear is Bingo. We're going to close with a band arrangement called Regal March. And like Mr. Drudy said, as we get further along and the students learn to play independent parts, this is where it really takes a lot of class time. And this is where we can really tell the students that are coming prepared, because then our job is just to fit the pieces together instead of to try to go through and teach each part individually. So once again, parents, thank you so much for your support of our music students. I know Mr. Drudy and I absolutely love coming here. It's a great school, and we've really enjoyed having your students this year. Please enjoy Regal March.
I want to thank the band and orchestra for performing today and kind of setting the tone for another purpose why we're here, a tribute to our dear friend and father, Mr. Dennis Kretschman. I saw on the program as I showed up today, it said tribute Greg Ramey, MC, Zoo School principal, and I didn't know. I'm glad I didn't know, because I probably would have spent a lot of time trying to write stuff and try to find the right words when words can't even begin to describe. 40+ years service to our community, our kids, to everyone. And I kind of wonder he'd be thinking right now, I'm sure he wouldn't like all the hoo-ha and all that, but that's okay. You know, we love him and he deserves it and we need to do something, and it's really kind of to meet our need anyways. But for me, I remember meeting Dennis, and a quiet, calm guy. He seemed like he didn't have a lot to say at times, but when he spoke, it's like words of wisdom for me, and sometimes I'd come back later and say, Dennis, what'd you mean by that? And it just seems like every time we spoke, you know, his depth of knowledge was sometimes beyond my understanding, and it was really cool to be able to work with him the 4 years I did. I'm grateful for that. Memories that come to mind for me is the beginning of the day, ending of the day, at the circle, or if you walk in the classroom and the kids are getting ready for the morning day, but he's playing his guitar, and just send a message of love and tone and care to the kids with really not even saying a word, sharing his talents, telling us it's okay to give our gifts, whatever those are, whatever level, because you know the gifts we have are important, and he encouraged us to do that and made us feel more welcome within ourselves. I love the TP at camp. That's something else comes to mind for me, and into the conversations about that. I have so many memories about songs, music, and love. He challenged us mentally. He challenged us physically, socially, and spiritually too. I'll sure miss Dennis. I love him so much. And there's no words that can describe it, so I'm not going to try. But I'm going to invite a few folks up here to share from their hearts and their words to celebrate Dennis Kretchman today. First, I'd like to invite his daughter, Jennifer Kretschman Rollenhagen, to come up and share a few words about her dad. Please welcome Jennifer.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out today to pay tribute to my dad. I'm Jenny. I'm one of his daughters. I'll be speaking on behalf of my family who love him and miss him very much. As most of you know, my dad's been a teacher at Zoo School for more than almost 45 years. He's very proud of this school and what it stood for. He loved watching the transformation of his students throughout the school year. Most students started scared and intimidated of what was before them. My dad had high expectations, but by the end of the year, he was always proud that your hard work and determination allowed you to flourish here. Over the years, my dad would tell me of his former students who would stop by during or after school to visit him, say hello, and catch up. He truly appreciated that. It wasn't unusual that we would be out together and we would run into someone who knew him from school or the zoo. He had been here a long time. He eventually taught children of his former students. He actually recently has even taught grandchildren of some of his students. So that's how long he's been here. Some of my earliest memories are from the zoo. My dad would bring us to his classroom on weekends and sometimes during the week. In the summer, he would work on grading homework, setting up planning lessons. We would help him feed the animals in the classroom and water the plants. When the work was done, we would either sled on this hill, it used to be a sledding hill, or ice skate on the pond when we used to be able to do that. Sometimes he would let me and my siblings go up and explore the zoo without him while he was finishing up work. While my siblings and I did not attend zoo school, it sometimes felt like we did. Dad took us along on field trips to the planetarium, to the gypsum mines. All four of us went to the year-end camping trip at Camp Hayawenta on Torch Lake when we were in 6th grade. We too experienced sleeping in the cold and sometimes wet woods at Survival, hiking to the ranger station, making brownies over the fire at the meadow and getting to eat them in Dad's teepee, and canoeing down the Jordan River. He dedicated himself to this school and is partially responsible for what it has become, but he couldn't have done it without the other integral people who have been with him through the years. Now, I'm not going to be able to name everyone, but Dave Humphrey, I know he's not here, but he was one of my dad's best friends. They had been teachers together for a long time. When John stepped in, John's really been a help. Bonnie Velding, she's known me since I was born. The Sages, they've really helped out, especially up in camp. My dad valued so many of your friendships. I'm not doing a service of saying every single name because he loved you guys all. I would occasionally ask him, Dad, when are you going to retire? He would say never. He loved influencing his students and teaching them to love the same things he did. He loved teaching you the songs that you would sit around and sing while he played the guitar. He loved taking you guys on hikes in the woods, showing you different types of plants and trees. He loved what he did. In my dad's last weeks, he celebrated my daughter's 8th birthday, celebrated Christmas with us, spent a week in the Everglades with my sister's family, and he spent his final day here, hiking in the woods with his students and playing outside in the snow with them. That's how he would have wanted it. I imagine he taught his students the same values as he and my mother taught us. They taught us a strong work ethic, to take responsibility for our actions, and importantly, to be kind and accepting of everyone. I'm so thankful that I got to be their daughter. He tried to find meaning in everything he did and make the most out of every moment. So as we celebrate his passion for education and for the school, I encourage you to find passion in what you do and continue to thank those around you who have made a positive impact in your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Words from the heart. At this time, Mr. John Fordney, colleague, and Mr. Kretchman, all-around great guy.
Good afternoon. For those of you that might not know me, my name is John Fordney. I taught with Dennis here for the past 8 years. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for coming out tonight. Your support and kindness over the last few months has meant a great deal and really helped the whole program and the whole zoo family get through, a pretty difficult situation. So really, we do really appreciate that. Thanks for coming. As most of you already know, Mr. K would have been very happy to see all of us coming together to celebrate and share stories. He once shared a story with me about how one of his greatest accomplishments was to create a setting like we're in today where everyone felt they belonged and understood that they had a purpose. And this dedication this evening is a very fitting tribute to that, to a man that emphasized the importance of the environment and the role that we play within it. This is a great way to maintain the integrity of an outstanding program by providing a space that will be a reminder to everyone of how great being a part of nature is an important part of our lives, and giving back is vital to its existence. Again, thank you for coming. I would also like to share a few words from Miss Bonnie Velding. She asked me to say a few on her behalf. So Dennis was like a brother to me in every way that a brother is to a sister. He always treated me like a family member and a friend. For an example, he would always laugh at me, especially during the time I fell off the monkey bridge and landed on top of a principal. Or when he Dave Humphrey, which was, a teacher here for many years, and I would cram into a small truck and call ourselves the Mod Squad. I believe that was a little orange truck. If the family remembers, was it a Datsun? I believe a little Datsun pickup truck. So Dennis had the biggest heart. He not only made his students feel valued, important, and appreciated, but everyone he came across. His passion for teaching was undeniable, and he always had a way of tying everything back to his true love, nature. Until we meet again, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Representing Grand Rapids Board of Education, Grand Rapids Public Schools, and also zoo parent, please welcome Dr. Tony Baker.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Tony Baker, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving on the Grand Rapids Board of Education. And on behalf of Superintendent Teresa Weatherall-Nill and all of my colleagues on the board, I am here tonight to join with you in paying tribute to Mr. K, and to thank each and every one of you who are here to honor his years of service and dedication to our students. I'm also a parent of a former Zoo School student, Maya, and I'm a teacher, and I hope in ways that are similar to Mr. K. When I heard that he had passed, tears flowed quickly as I measured the loss. I've met few teachers that impact children so deeply. He didn't just shape the lessons of 6th grade math and science or knowledge of the animals in the zoo, but he shaped the way they learn for the rest of their lives. They have joy and depth and meaning in their quest to learn, and they quest to learn and to share because of him. Maya, now at DePaul University, graduated from City High last year and never stops telling us stories about learning at Zoo School. I spoke to her today to help me write these words, and after her tears slowed, she said that he inspired a deeper appreciation for nature and being in harmony with the world around us. But what was most astonishing to her was that his teachings were actually recently resonating with her, as if he was still her teacher. I'm sure that all of his former students experience this ongoing instruction as they move through life, and probably their parents still learn the lessons of that special year, years and years later. I really want to thank the parents, Zoo School staff, and John Ball Zoo staff for putting together this event and finding an appropriate way to express a tribute to Mr. K with the dedication of this trail that he walked time and again with his students. Mr. K's footprints and those of his students over the last 4 decades form the trails of these hills. As new generations of Zoo School teachers and students walk these paths, we know that their traditions and their special ways of learning was inspired and created by Mr. K. Their lives will continue to reap the joy of his lessons as if he were still their teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. An alumni of Zoo School, Josh, come on up. Please welcome Josh Zeiderveen.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, zoo friends and family. It sure sounds loud here. I'm in the Bandshell. I can't tell how it sounds out there, but it feels really good to be around this many zoo people. I just wish Mr. K was here with us. Mr. K is the kind of teacher who left a mark on everybody, and our lives are richer, fuller, and more interesting because of him. I'd like to offer my deepest sympathies to Mr. K's family. I can't imagine the void in your lives. Mr. K's presence was really big. I hope that the memories of Mr. K, which are so alive in the hearts of students and families, will find a way to surround you and comfort you as the years pass. Because I know Mr. K's memory is alive in thousands of us. I have 100 memories of my own from my time at Zoo School 32 short years ago. And my first instinct, now that I have the microphone, is to tell some of the more outrageous ones that are embarrassing to some of my favorite classmates. But what I'd rather do is tell you just what Mr. Humphrey and Mr. K and Miss Velding meant to me and to my classmates, because I think it's the same for all the zoo school students over the years. So I'll tell this short story. In the fall of '85, when our class showed up here, I was a little insecure 11-year-old twerp whose mother made him go here. I wasn't even the first selection from my 5th grade class at Brookside. The first selection girl didn't want to come to the school in the trailer, and I didn't either, but my mom made me. Once here, I realized that the kids were bigger, smarter, more talented, more prepared. I felt outclassed. And the teachers were intimidating. The workload was big. And to top that off, we were told that we had to present to the entire class a couple of times, this thing called an opening. Kind of like right now. Presenting in front of a room full of overachievers with one of these intimidating teachers scribbling notes and evaluating you was scary stuff, at least at the beginning of the year. But a couple of months of zoo schooling from Mr. H and Mr. K got me overachieving too. And I got on point by the time it was Mr. K's opening. I told the story about the DNR airlifting moose with helicopters into the Upper Peninsula. I used borrowed moose antlers and a VHS video for visual aids. And about halfway through my presentation, I started thinking, man, this isn't going too bad. And I glanced at Mr. K to kind of sneak a peek to confirm. And he was sitting on his desk watching me. And I have one of these little 3-second GIFs in my memory of seeing Mr. K watch me. And he wasn't doing cartwheels or banging pom-poms together or anything, because he wasn't super duper expressive, but I could tell that he was pleased with my presentation. This demanding teacher at this challenging school in this room full of overachieving bright kids, on that particular day, that tough teacher thought I was up to the task. Now, it's impossible to explain what small triumphs like this do for young people. There aren't words for it. It's kind of like being given a superpower. And it glows in you your whole life. I see the glow on Zooey's today. I see it on my classmates back there from the class of '86. I see it in other zoo alumni. I saw it on a couple of young men I met a month and a half ago who attend zoo school today. They got the zoo glow. You can see it from 100 yards away. Our teachers at zoo school performed some voodoo magic on us. They taught us kids how to realize talents that we didn't even know were in our bodies. And that glow in our '86 class has inspired us to do something for the school that meant so much to us. Thanks to Jason Rose for starting a GoFundMe account, we have raised $3,000 to donate to John Ball Zoo in the form of several gifts to nurture and encourage the outdoor education here at John Ball Zoo School. The first of these gifts, a half-dozen out-trip boxes, are currently being constructed by a local cabinet maker, and they'll be done tomorrow. We will deliver those within a week or two. They are for toting camping sundries to and fro. There's room in them for picnic supplies, cooking supplies, and maybe a book or two of ghost stories. Additionally, per the direction of Jason, 2 Kentucky coffee trees will be planted on the grounds of John Ball Zoo later this summer. Jason's coordinated these efforts. For those of you who don't remember, the Kentucky coffee tree was very important to Mr. K and Mr. H, and we have untold memories of discussions about how to behave near the coffee tree and which leaves to not touch. And after this presentation today and after the ceremony, Jason will be available for specific instructions for these trees in the future. I'd like to thank the members of my class for contributing, but most of all, I'd really like to thank the teachers and the staff of John Ball Zoo School, past and present. Thanks for your investment of your lives in young people. And I'd also like to thank your families for sharing you with us, because that's what you did. Those families shared their family members with us little kids, and it made a big difference in our life. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. Now from John Ball Zoo, responsible for the trail dedication, please welcome Andy McIntyre.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Thank you for the students for the music earlier. And today, obviously, we're here to remember a pretty amazing man. I knew Dennis for about the amount of time I've been at the zoo, which is 10 years. And that seems like a long time to me, because it's about the longest time I've been anywhere outside of my childhood home and lived in one place. But it's really only a fraction of the 40-plus years that Dennis put into this place and to everyone who went through it. It kind of blows my mind to realize that over 2,500 students had a whole year here under Dennis's guidance over the course of the time he was here. It's an amazing impact. Over the years, for me in education, I've met a lot of different educators, and you know, as I get older, I don't have a chance to recall them all quite as well as some, but I can tell you one thing, I will never forget Dennis. He had an honesty and a love about him that we all know. That honesty, I think, was not too honest, but just right. He pushed you, he challenged you, and he showed you the love at the same time. And all of that, along with his sort of humor, his wit, his sarcasm, was just the right blend to push students to places they hadn't been before. And I know that for parents, those of you who are parents now and were Zooies then, or those who are currently parents of Zooies, that you know that you were giving your kids off to someone and trusting them with them for an entire year, and that instilled a tremendous amount of confidence in you as well. I always think it's interesting when you ask teachers what it is they do, and a lot of times they'll say, well, I teach science, or I teach math, or I teach social studies. It's a subject. But I really think that what Dennis taught was that and much, much more. I think that what he really instilled was a sense of teaching them about life, teaching you perseverance, teaching you patience, teaching you the art of observation in the world around you, and that's something that nowadays is priceless. He was really a guide and a mentor for all the students that went through here during their whole 6th grade year. He led each of you to places you probably never thought you could go and to experience things you didn't realize that you could experience, or places that you would never forget. A lot of times today, I feel like spending time in nature isn't always given the value that it deserves, or nature isn't always given the value it deserves. But there's many tangible and intangible benefits that we all find in it, and it's something that's timeless. And yet in these times, sometimes people don't remember that. I know that every day that Dennis taught here, and every student that went through here now comes away and realizes that nature is a part of everything we do, and is a part of everything around you. And that level of appreciation is something that really can't be instilled by anyone else in the way that he did it. I like to think of 2 words to describe him. If someone said, how would you, I would have a hard time, but I like to think of classic, yet unconventional. And I say classic because he did things with students that if it wasn't broke, why do you fix it? Really, to be honest, there were things that, there are classic and timeless ways to connect people with nature. And they've worked for a very long time, and they still do today. And they were the same things that parents here did, and if your kid was a Zooey, they probably did it too. It's because it worked, and Dennis knew that. He knew how to connect children with nature. He also did some unconventional things compared to teachers today. Not many teachers take out their guitar and sing a song that you probably won't hear on the radio as much nowadays if you're a 6th grader. And he also sort of took the time to grow plants that maybe later would turn into salsa that allowed for communion and fellowship with others. That's not something you find very often. And it's these sort of things of maybe sitting and laying in the grass and letting the ginkgo leaves fall on your face, that those are the unconventional things you won't find everywhere. and the kinds of experiences you can't get. I think that everyone who's attended zoo school is a testament to all that Dennis was. We have some that have gone on to become zoo veterinarians, some that have often being wildlife biologists, and many of you that are doing other things that aren't directly involved with nature, but I know one thing, that the 1 year that you spend at zoo school is something you never forget. So to honor Dennis here, one of the things that we ask that you do is take a moment and stop. Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers, look up at the sky, take in all the clouds have to offer. The trail behind us here at John Ball Zoo is a place that I would venture to say probably Dennis knew better than any individual in the entire world, and hiked it more often than anyone else. So this trail behind us here is now the Kretchman Trail in honor and in memory of Dennis Kretchman and all that he did here at the zoo for all of us. So I would just ask that over the course of maybe today, if it's not today, it's another day, take a moment, sort of look up, observe around you, come hike the trail, maybe grab a guitar and play a song with your friends. I know that as I hike this trail, I'll remember Dennis, and I know that you will too. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Hey, the students of this year's staff, PTA, sure would like to thank you, Andy, and the zoo staff and Grand Rapids Public Schools for supporting us and facilitating this event. I will say Dennis was a man who challenged us to stand tall, to live tall, to think tall, and to smile tall. So what do you say we start smiling and enjoy this trail now? And there's some refreshments back there, and let's enjoy the day. Thank you all so much for coming.